Hi, extended family. How are you today? Well, it's Sunday, and today I would like to tape our Sunday routine, our homemade butter. Um, Chef H is just my screen name. I'm really a mom, a busy mom, like you parents out there, but with a strong interest in cooking at home. So hence, I share these homemade recipes. Today's recipe is making homemade butter. This is something that brings me back to my childhood. The butter that we make at home is very similar to the salty Amul butter that I used to eat in India. And as you know, the smells and flavors of foods, it has such a strong connection to emotions and memory that it just transports me back right there. The other place it really transports me when I don't add salt to my homemade butter is to Paris. You know, I close my eyes and I can just picture myself eating a ham and cheese baguette and with this creamy butter on it. So let's get started. Let's look at some of the ingredients. Thank you, Ruben, for taping. Your main ingredient for this recipe is heavy whipping cream. It's about 8 ounces, and what I did is took the whipping cream and left it on the counter right over there, taking it out from the fridge for at least a day, and if you want to sour it, for at least a day and a half. This is your main ingredient, and everything else is optional and what you put it on. You could just put it on your finger and lick it, and it's delicious, I promise you. Having said that, how do you make this butter? Well, we could shake it up in this container, and I'm pretty sure it will make the butter. You can shake it up in probably a can, but what I do is I shake it up in this container that is available on Amazon website. You can actually get it at Chef Central or other cooking stores, and it really is amazing because it makes the butter very easily, and most importantly, you know, cooperative experience is my mantra. So getting your children involved. So very simply, there are 2 parts to it, actually 3 parts, the bottom section and the top section. Now the important part is you have to make sure that when you're cleaning it, and whoever's cleaning this after use, that you preserve this plastic insert. And there's a plastic O-ring here that usually gets lost, so it's really important to preserve it because that O-ring is important for this tight seal, and you'll see why we even need that. So the other tools that I have here is a spoon, obviously a knife to spread it. If you're making a baguette, you don't need a shun, but it helps me. If you're putting some cheese, you want something to grate with. So today's recipe is going to be homemade butter, and Ruben and Mom are out to go see a movie, so I'm going to make them a baguette to bring with them. And it's with fresh cut ham, some basil, a little bit of Parmesan, and I'm going to dress it with strawberries and greens. So let's get started. You make sure this portion of the container is closed. You just kind of give it a little shake to make sure that there are no, the contents are mixed nicely. Okay, so the container is finally open. I'm sure you can do a better job. You take your contents and drop it right through this little sieve that's there. There you go. And this measurement is perfect because that's exactly what this was made for. This container was made for about 8 ounces, and this is perfect. So you tighten it, and here's the measure. It says 8 ounces, which is 1 cup of cream. And then you get the strongest person in your home or line up the kids and get them to shake it. And that's it. Stop it. And when you run out of energy, you get Mr. Muscle Man to shake it.
Do you hear the difference?
I hear the difference, yes. And what Ruben is trying to say is now the chemical reaction is taking place where the butter separates from the whey, and suddenly it thickens and you don't hear the liquid. And you come to a point where you suddenly hear liquid, and that is the whey that's separated from your butter, and you know it's time to extract the butter from the jar. So you open the top of the container, and you can see these wells, little sieve here, and what you want to do is make sure you remove that liquid. That's all whey. You did a good job, Ruben. Excellent. The whole process took about maybe 3 minutes, nothing more than that. Now, some people recommend that you wash this butter. And what you do is basically pour a little bit of filtered water there, mix it around, and wash it. I generally tend not to wash it. I just leave it. I like the butter nice and soft. Now you put the lid back on, and then you open up the other end. Right there is your butter. It's amazing. Now, if you wanted to get fancy, I'm just going to take a little bit for our demonstration purposes. If you wanted to get fancy, you can even put this into those little tubes and squeeze them into squares or different shapes and put them on a parchment paper and put it in the freezer just for a little bit so that you have these individual little pieces for use. Let's taste it. Like I said, finger works as well as bread. And this butter has no salt in it so far. So it's much sweeter, it's creamier. And when you taste it, it actually, for me, it transports me right back to a bakery in Paris. The bread may not be as great, but the butter is. Okay, so the whey you can put aside and decide what you want to do with it. Let's get our sandwich ready, which is optional, like I said. You can take your butter a little bit. Again, nicely spread it out on your bread. And a good amount because you really want that buttery taste. Now, if it were me, I would just eat it like that. But we're gonna make it a little fancy. And I'm going to add a little bit of cheese gratings. Sorry. Just a little bit to give it a little brown. And the next thing we're going to do is add a little bit of butter. Do you want some basil on yours, Ruben?
No thanks.
No thanks? Okay. So we'll put this here. And I'm going to leave one side open, the other side, and let's bring it to our toaster oven. In the meantime, I'd like to share this story with you. Growing up, I absolutely cooked zero rice up until I was getting ready to come to the United States for graduate school. So I remember asking my mom to teach me a few recipes, a few basic needs, and she would always say to me, no one's going to marry you, no Indian will marry you because you don't know how to cook. And my staple answer to her was, well, I don't have to marry Indian. But really, the point I'm trying to make, life in India did not allow me exposure or an opportunity to cook, really, because we had help in the house and the help cooked. The cooks made the dinner, lunches, and breakfast, leaving very little opportunity for the kids to do what they needed to do. We either played, studied, or engaged in other activities. So the whole point, if I had to do it again, and I did, is to expose our children, give them these opportunities to cook, to touch the produce, touch different things, smell. Because smell is such an important part of the flavor. Smell is what transports you to a place, and this is a childhood memory. This is a memory of my trip to Paris for our honeymoon, right, Ruben? So I think that that's really important, that we come into contact with these foods and children are given these opportunities to engage in these cooperative experiences. Let me check if this is done. So, this is really hot. Our our bread is out. You can see the crusting, and that crusting comes from that little Parmesan on it, a little crusting on the ham. Ruben, just because I love you, I'm going to add a little bit of basil. You can always take it out, just a little bit, okay? And the next thing I'm going to do is plating. Plating is huge part of our eating, you know, how it looks. I always say this, we can eat the same thing at a diner and not have that same experience like we would at Dan Barber's restaurant, Blue Hill. I'd love to go there one day. And nothing like topping it with a few strawberries. Enjoy, my love.
Thank you.
Ruben, will you share your experience?
It's really delicious. It's warm, it's crunchy. The butter is amazing. I love it. Thank you.